I had a vision of making my life a work of art, and I was looking for people who also felt that way.
Welcome to how to upcycle your old clothes. I just got home from class, so if I seem a little low energy at all throughout this video, it's because I am. Since this video is a little bit unconventional, I'm trying to think of how to structure it in the way that's going to be most helpful for those watching who want to learn something. I thought it would be a fun idea to film one of my upcycling projects from beginning to end and kind of explain the process. I guess I should grab the piece that I'm going to be upcycling and then we'll go from there. Step 1, choose the garment that you want to upcycle. For today's video, I'm going to be upcycling this pencil skirt. When I'm upcycling, I always tend to choose pieces that have some sort of detail that inspires me to make something new out of it. The detail that really drew me in was the pleating on the bottom. The simplest upcycle I could think of for someone who really just wants to do a beginner style is to just bring this ruffle up and make it a mini skirt. You could use this fabric here to create some sort of like fitted top and then add the ruffle on the top somehow. You could even upcycle these into like a pair of capri pants with little ruffles around the calf, which would also be cute. It's just not what I'm doing today. Step 2, create a rough plan for what you want your upcycle to be. I am going to be doing a mini skirt that's a little bit more complicated than just bringing this up. Here's a little sketch from when I was planning this video earlier. This is the starting skirt, long and pencil with the pleat on the bottom, and then this is kind of the rough idea. Once you have a rough design plan, you can kind of know what your next step is going to be. I know I want mine to be some sort of fun skirt with different layering and trims, so I know that my first step is to chop this ruffle off and decide where I want it up here so that I can then know where I want to layer trims and other sections of fabric if I choose. I'm thinking pink and black right now, but maybe that will change along the way. I've noticed that when I upcycle, I tend to plan less and kind of let the clothes form as I'm working on them. I don't get super attached to any of my original ideas and I kind of just keep them in the back of my mind. Before I start cutting, I'm actually just going to use a ruler and draw a line that is 1 inch away from the seam, just because they'll be helpful to have an exact seam allowance. Once I'm done drawing this pencil line all the way around, I'm going to cut along the pencil line using my, crap, I forgot what these are called, but they're the ones that have the zigzag on them, and this will help it not fray so much. I know that I want the pleats to sit 8 inches from the top of the skirt, so I measured 9 inches down. Since earlier I did that 1 inch of seam allowance, and then when I flip it over, it's 8 inches down like I want. Here's what it looks like after base stitching it on. Now the next step is to go in and hem the lining fabric so that it is the same length and not so long. But you could also take this another route and keep the lining fabric and do like another layering thing. There's really so many options. Step 3, adapt your rough idea design to fit what ends up working best for the piece that you have. Since the pleat fits better at the bottom of the skirt rather than higher where I originally wanted it, I now have all of this empty space to work with. So I pulled out 2 of my scrap fabric bins, and the first thing that I pulled out that I'm like, ooh, this is kind of pretty, is this rose trim. And I could even go in and add more lace behind the flowers. Let's see what else I have though. I've got some feathers. I've got these interesting little zip up details. I've got this fabric that could be pretty. Not exactly what I'm looking for. I really like the idea of adding pockets because who doesn't like pockets? I feel like pockets are a selling point. Plus in my draping class, we're focused on pockets right now, so I kind of want to do some pockets. But I don't like this blue denim with this pink, so I am going to use the scrap fabric from the skirt to create a little pocket in the same shape as this one. Before I start tracing and cutting out my pocket shape, I'm going to use some interfacing and then do the pocket shape. That way it will hold this fabric in place. Otherwise, it's gonna be kind of hard to cut out on this because this fabric is so warpy. I've got one layer of the outside fabric with the interfacing ironed on the inside, and I have one layer of the lining fabric. To make this a little bit easier on myself, I'm going to baste these two pieces together on the outsides and then trace out my pocket. Now that I have my really light outline, I'm going to go through and stitch along this line, stitch along this line, stitch along this line, and then partially stitch around here, and then leave like a 3-finger gap. That way I can flip it inside out. Here's the little pocket I made. I still need to go around and do like the finishing seams and close up that little hole. But I'm on pocket number 2. I accidentally sewed the lining on the inside, so I'm gonna have to seam rip this and switch the fabrics, but that's what happens when you sew. Lots of seam ripping. Now the only thing left to decide is how I want to attach trims, which I just feel like I don't have the mental capacity to decide on tonight. So I'm going to put this down for the night and finish it later. But it's looking really cute so far. Okay. Today I'm going to decide how I want the lace to sit out, and as of right now I'm kind of settled on a white lace and pink vibe, but I want to do a mix of white laces, so it's gonna take me a minute. Yes, it's now day 3 of working on this skirt. I spent all day yesterday working on the placement of all of the lace pieces and finishing the pockets. So now all I have left to do is just go through and carefully pin and sew all of the different layers of lace one at a time. Let's do it. Usually when I'm sewing lace pieces or really anything onto a piece of clothing that already has a lining, I try to sew it on so that I'm not sewing the lining to this part of the fabric, but since the lining is already attached to the zipper, I think I'm just going to carefully pin everything to include the lining, and then you'll just be able to see the stitch lines on the inside, which I don't mind. I think it's actually kind of cool to be able to see the stitch lines because it shows how much work went into it, so that's what we're gonna be doing. Since this piece of lace is going on top of everything, it's going to get sewn on last. So I'm gonna remove it for now while I get all of the other pieces pinned and sewed down, and then this will be the final piece. Now that I've got all of the lace pieces attached, I'm going to go through and hem the lining and then add the pockets, also add my little tag, and then it's done.